Good morning, everyone. Hello. All right. We are kicking off this free training, and I'm actually doing this for the Healthy Hustle podcast because I have gotten, let me count, 20 people in the last 20 coaches, 20 brilliant coaches in the last 2 weeks asking me the same question. And so they get on a phone call with me and they have every conviction, every clear reason why they want to coach, but they're stuck on their niche. So I want to share with you a strategy, an exercise, the game changer for my business that happened at the end of 2 years of struggle. This change that I had in my business, have a successful business, was simply because I started to really understand how powerful niche can be. And I see a lot of us doing it. It's not that we're not doing it incorrectly. We're doing like baby step number 1 instead of geeking out on how magnificent this process is. So stay tuned with me. Seriously, I'm going to aim for this to be 10 to 15 minutes so that we go step by step and we drill down, because I announced last week, we are diving into these basics. It's very hard to get to any growth in your business if you haven't mastered the basics, your niche, what you need to put on your website, your signature offers, your messaging, your unique story that helps people understand your backstory. So I am going OG style, old school, and we are going to touch on every one of these elements. Okay, enough of me talking. Let's take a big, deep alignment breath. We know we've got this. If you are watching this, you are going to see me hold up a piece of paper. It's very simple. All you need is a journal or a piece of paper. I actually love, and my husband Scott gave me this book that I like to create all of my mind maps. You will see I am the person who creates funnels and opportunities on paper, because it's just it takes away from my anxiety. If you know anything about me, I definitely have anxiety, and I've learned in this business building to pave my own path. We learn that in our health, and we have to learn that in business. I've learned that what works for other people, where they sit on Excel spreadsheets and they look at every number and analytics, that makes me feel like I'm going to have a panic attack. And I learned that also in year 2. I learned to let go of what other people were telling me, let go of, that typical strategy. And that's why I hired a lot of people who were more intuitive in their business and helped me to really hone in on letting go of that comparison syndrome and thinking that I needed to craft this all in the way that everyone else does. So before we go on this exercise, clear out all your negative thinking. Step into, I'm going to blaze this business the way that I know I'm meant to do. Let go of overwhelm. No overwhelm is going to be part of this process. It's building a business. If it was easy, everybody would do it. So what we're going to do is make it easier by chunking down with some very little exercises. So today's exercise is part 1 of Niche Done Different. You will see, like I said, in that segue story, you can have a really cool little book like that you do all of what I call this marinating on your ideal client, the pain points, the obstacles, the objections, so that you have everything crystal clear in one book. Or you can, of course, do it on chicken scratch on a paper and then rip this paper off and keep it in there. So this becomes your ongoing roadmap for understanding your ideal client. When we know the pain, we in turn know what product to offer. We know what opt-in freebie. We know what talk to have. We know what workshops to create. We know what we want to be known for and how we are communicating to our ideal client. It doesn't anymore become a mystery. So then the excitement steps in, like, wow, I am going to attack the biggest problems that I see in the industry that I know are missing. And that's, in my unique approach, what makes me extremely different. That, guys, is what blazes the trail. That is where you create a rock star business. And that is where you start to understand the power of niche isn't just I want to be known for, but it's diving into all of these potential problems and their symptoms and the messaging. And we get even more specific. We call this polarizing down, and we talk about different subjects so we can start to look at the data. And that's how I do it. I have always looked at data on my Facebook posts, on my lives. I will look at my Instagram analytics. I will do market research by finding 5 competitors and seeing what they're talking about. I will also look at 5 people who are like the top in the industry, so I can see how they are messaging within the same niche, what they are offering. And then, of course, I'm going to go to Amazon and see the trending books. I'm going to know what shows my ideal client watches. Does she or he watch the Today Show? Does he or she listen to Oprah, Dr. Oz? Who do they admire? Where do they digest their information? Do they read the New York Times? Do they listen to podcasts? I have to know my ideal client so I can understand how I need to address the information that my ideal client knows. Do I believe in it or do I not? And how can I then take that information and say, well, maybe you've been told that. I'm going to give one example before we dive in. Maybe you've been told that food has a direct impact on your mood. In today's blog, I'm going to go over the top foods I eat to improve mood. That's one blog post. The second is a live. I'm going to say this a little different. Guys, in today's live, I want to talk about anxiety and food and mood. I want to tell you a personal story about why this was so important to me, because maybe you didn't know I, have dealt with anxiety, depression, and a myriad of other mental health issues that led me to diagnosis after diagnosis. Learn what I did. That's a personal story. That's your backstory. That's what happened to you. And too often, even if it didn't happen to you, you're in this business because you desire to see a change in either the machine, the system, the industry. You have an opinion. And that is where niche really goes beyond just this one word. Oh, I work with women, who have gut issues. They are struggling with 1, 2, 3. So I help them overcome ABC with my signature 3-step blueprint or my signature 3-step, method. That's the pitch. And that's us developing what we do. So we say it really easy in an elevator pitch, when we're out to dinner, when somebody asks us what we do, we're dropping our child off at, school or the PTA. It's so we can message to that person in a really concise 1 to 2 sentence. That will only take your business so far. And for some of you, it won't take your business anywhere because it's a little robotic. We have to be a little robotic to master that basics of saying it in a cohesive way, who we serve and why. Niche done different is when we take into account, write this down, guys, the psychology of your potential buyer. When we include, as I mentioned, these key aspects of understanding our ideal client avatar, their demographics, what TV shows, what books they read, do they listen to podcasts? And sometimes, because marketing is assumption, we have to make this assumption. But most often, there have usually been about 3 people in our life who usually fit our ideal client avatars. And so we step into that intuition and we say, well, my friend, she fits pretty much my ideal client avatar. She's this age, she's got these problems. Man, she hits these obstacles constantly, and I don't know why she always asks me these core questions. That's your avatar 1. You are going past just, I work with people who have gut issues. Just like that second live, I told a personal story. I can guarantee you under that live, people are going to ask me specific questions because I showed up and I shared about something that either I went through or something that, I witnessed. But this is my purpose, to help people to understand that there is a solution to the anxiety, the depression, the diagnosis, and there are foods that this person can eat. And then guess what, guys? There's about 10 other posts and lives and topics that I could say right off my head that would help my ideal client get to know what I do. We can say what we do, but selling that transformation, making money in the digital world, in a brick and mortar, in clinic, whatever type of certification or whatever type of teaching you have in your business, solely depends on your ideal client understanding that you are the person that's going to help them connect the dots for potentially what they don't know about their current health issue because they're just feeling off. I'm saying this in quotation marks, or that they've been told countless times, well, we think you have this. Or my favorite one that I heard probably about 576 times is, but my doctor told me I didn't have this. Now, we're not saying doctors are bad. I love doctors. I have a very distinct protocol that I would always teach my clients on how to advocate and how to have a co-creation relationship with your doctor. Just like there are some bad people, there are some bad doctors. What we know in the type of system that we have in approaching health and wellness is that we are not looking at the individual person. There are these blanket statements. Well, we think that you have this, but we don't understand why this test shows this. We all know that we're not looking at the bioindividuality of somebody. We're not searching for the root problem. But we also know that we can't be in frustration that somebody thinks that gluten should only be removed if they're celiac, right? How many times do we hear this? We have to educate the why. We have to stop making an assumption that people know this, because guess what? And drop a 1 anywhere you're watching this, or just jump up in your chair and say, hells to the yes, Rachel, thank you. Is that people know this information, but they're confused about it. We're not sitting here per se explaining new information. We have more information, yet we're sicker. We have more disease each year. We have more kids addicted to, sugar at exorbitant amount of levels in ingredients where you need to literally be a biochemist or a scientist to understand how to read a goddamn label. We all know that. Our job is to connect the dots. And just, I will say, at the 14-minute mark that you're watching, I am sorry I did not keep to my promise of 10 minutes. This is, as you can see, extremely important because I struggled in trying to understand what I was doing wrong. And that's why we are diving back into these basics. And that's why right now we are actually going to start this exercise. So before I go on, I just want you to take a breath and really think of how many people in your life can fit your ideal client avatar. And I want you to think of every question people asked you. And I want you to be serious with yourself. No more excuse zone. Are you really showing up and explaining this connection, these problems, the constant, obstacles that your ideal client goes through in their day? Or are you just showing up and saying, if you hire me, your hormones will be better. You won't have imbalances. I'm going to help you get off sugar cravings. I'm going to help you restore your gut health. I'm going to help you detox so you feel better. I said all of those too. And you know what? I got my face lovingly smacked by my coach and said, Rachel, you sound like everyone else. You will never be able to get to this next place if you don't understand niche and go beyond just this pitch, this hook statement, and really dive into all of these many problems. And this exercise is extremely important because many of you say this, Rachel, I don't know what to choose because I do feel like I serve everyone. I've just gone through so much in my life. This is extremely important for you to understand that the human being, the human psyche, the human being journey, like Scott Peck said in the book I read at 18, looking for a solution. That early in my life did I feel confused. He talked about in The Road Less Traveled. We have to actually help people take this path because that road less traveled is the same thing when we say, I don't understand. You don't have to per se go on antibiotics for strep. You can catch this early. You can do these XY things, but we are going against the grain, literally. That's why one of my favorite bands is Rage Against the Machine. You have to look at this and you have to be disruptive, but you also have to understand that your potential client may not truly get this right away because they are imprinted in a life of information that they're absorbing. They are overwhelmed. They are scared. They feel every fear and they are scared at times to even commit, even though you might be saying it right because of their past experiences. So take a deep breath, push out all the negative comments, all the fears that you're not going to get hired, and let's dive into this simple exercise. You're going to put it at the top of this paper. If you're, of course, seeing me do holding my book in front of the camera, awesome. If you're listening to this on the Healthy Hustle podcast, I'm going to take you through step by step. You're going to write down on the first line, my niche is. You can also, of course, write, I serve people who are struggling with problem one, and separate them. So you actually see this. You're making like a vision board map for your business. So my niche is, put that right down. I work with people who are struggling with problem one, problem two, problem three. For those of you who want to master digital marketing and social media, this is social media 101 because it's in understanding the problem so you can actually create content, use our done for you content, or use your own content successfully to create the solution to each problem and get specific. So you're going to write down problem one, problem two, problem three. And if you don't know what they want to achieve, also you hear people say the promise. What is the promise of this free offer? What is the promise of your free group on Facebook? What is the promise of that masterclass, the challenge, the offers, working with you? This, guys, is the nitty-gritty of you stepping into the shoes of your ideal client and you saying, this person has this problem. I know this freebie is their solution. A freebie is also known as an opt-in freebie. This freebie is the solution because in this freebie, I cover how to address this big problem, but I really hone into these specific area. Problem 1, problem 2, problem 3. Or maybe that one freebie is for problem 1, and you have another freebie for problem 2, really covering problem 2 issue. And you have another freebie for problem 3. Guys, when I say freebies can be in a bunch of different formats. I will blow your mind on another episode when we cover this, but I want you to really see connection with people, which is what digital marketing, social media does, DMs, PMs, groups, everything. That's the connection piece. We can only have connections that convert into paid offers or even convert into somebody opting into your ecosystem if the conversation solves their problem. That's why I love a bunch of different freebies, because they can get solo focused on the problem. Then what you're going to do is, I specialize in, it's not just gut. You declared that like my niche is gut. I specialize in these core pillars. This is the mind blower. This is where you're going to start to separate yourself from everyone else, because while everyone else is talking gut and gut, you're relating gut. For me, it was detox and weight loss. And I had essential oils, natural solutions fit in this big category. You're going to break it into categories so that you can get even more specific in your conversation, polarizing down in that niche and helping somebody to understand that you are the go-to person and that you're helping to connect these dots in a way that really becomes your signature blueprint. So for example, if Sally specializes in gut, but her focus is of course gut, but now we're going to polarize down, and one of her core pillars is mindset. Then, and I'm going to just make this so that you see these core pillars, that mindset is one of her core categories of content. We're going to get really big on this because a lot of people just stay in that one word. No, we're going to go big. We're going to expand because I want you to come out blazing and create that business that does separate you apart. And this is what I had to learn to do. So mindset's this big piece. She also talks a lot about the hormones. She's not specializing in hormones, but she talks a lot about this hormone connection. Third area is blood sugar. She knows that in order to have really good gut, she specializes in gut, but these core content pillars that she constantly talks about are mindset, hormone, blood sugar, and energy. So if you see the paper that I'm holding up, you might of course see the letters backwards, but in the middle, you're going to create one box, and that's going to say what your niche is. Then you're going to create these core big bubbles that are your big categories. These are also most often steps in your signature process, because you feel with conviction and with confidence that in order to have the most epic life, in order to have your gut thriving, you need to master this mindset part. You need to have your hormones in this healthy place so your gut doesn't get disturbed weekly, right? When our hormones change, you really believe that. You believe, that energy is just this big thing that people always say to you. And you're like, yeah, I want to have that energy to accomplish whatever I want. Because when I don't, I know that my ideal client struggles with some anxiety and, some perfectionist issues that come out when they don't have energy, and you're really you really understand this is like this huge thing you just have to talk about, and blood sugar. Because the blood sugar ties into the energy, it ties in the hormone, it ties. Now, each one of you are going to have a different one because each one of you are so different, and how you approach your business is so different. That's why my approach to building a thriving whole business is different from many other business coaches. And probably different because I coached much longer than a lot of other business coaches did. I did coach one-on-one, groups, masterclasses, JV partnerships. I did a lot of different things. And so I understood that not everyone comes to you is the same exact person. And so they need different ways to work with you based on the complexity of their issues. It's a big one for one-on-one. Two, based on even their personality, because I am such a feeler type of person, and I'm such a gutsy kind of person, which means all of my gut clients had perfectionist issues, tendency to overthink, tendency to go into like analysis paralysis, even at very young ages, like their first memory at 3. I knew my client. I knew the personality of my client. And so my offers weren't just what everyone else said I should create. It was offers that I knew would solve the problem for my unique clients' issues. So each one of you are going to have a different one of these. Now, let's get to this next part, because this is the mind-blowing part. And if you guys have any questions from this, because this is our Healthy Hustle podcast, it's really about creating this business without this massive adrenal fatigue and burnout, and also doing it in a way that feels completely aligned with you, so that you're not like hustling. The hustling part is when we're in that overwhelm and that state of fear. The alignment and that purpose and knowing when we've just like nailed it, that to me is the healthy hustle. And that to me is when we are working, but it's like, it's so right on, because not only do we know what's right for a client, but we have ownership of our own story. We've let go of ego. We've let go of pride. We've let go of the fear that nobody's going to buy us. We buy from us. We are in that grounded and aligned state. That to me, I mean, I just got chills. That's the game changer. And that's what this does. This helps us to come out of all of that. You have to have this spreadsheet and you've got to be looking at all these numbers. And a lot of what takes the heart-based coach, the heart-based service provider out of the heart. I want you to come back into the heart, because I promise you that you will build this intuitive business when we really stay in this heart-based place, and then we bring in strategy. So we're going to finalize this exercise. And guys, just to recap, you're making a square in the middle. You're putting 3 or 4 bubbles, larger circles, around on each corner of this square or this rectangle. And then we're going to go into what I call the branch, tree, and the leaf exercise. And this is where we get really expansive. So we're going to take another breath. Going to breathe in. We're going to hold into an elevator breath, get out all that carbon dioxide, and then we're going to release, and you're going to do this sound. This was taught by my Reiki. In Reiki level 1, I was taught the sound healing of each of our organs, because the liver needs everything to be in control. It needs the perfect plan. And so if you are that perfectionist, your liver is running the game and saying, we've got to have it all together before we start. It's got to be perfect. Everything. And that liver type of control is not letting us come back to the flow. We always say it's the yin flow. It's not the feminine flow. It's the yin flow, because each one of us have yin and yang. It's just to bring them into really harmony. So we're going to do it. Breathe. You're going to hold. and just visualize letting go and deleting every negative energy, all the fears, and then you're going to let go with that S. It's like a snake. You're going to release all that energetic, bad vibration in your body. We're going to take a big breath. Some people do this in chakra work. I always look at this more as organs, like releasing the sounds of the organs. So we're going to come back to our exercise, because at each time where you start to feel this overwhelm, mastery of the mindset of coaching and of life and of success is to be able to handle the overwhelm in the present moment. It's not to do a vision board and then go, I don't know why my vision board isn't working. It's to sit in the present moment and handle the fears so they don't take hold in the body and create these stories that take you away from your purpose, or refuel trauma or experiences where maybe you didn't feel like you could do it. Now, rewire your purpose, rewire to be the rock star coach that you want to be. So now we're going to come back to this. To recap, you've got your square in the middle. You have bubbles as you see me holding up my document to you, my piece of paper, my scratch work, in a circle in each corner. Now I want you to create branches. You're going to make it visually for those of you watching, and maybe you're listening to this on the podcast. Think of creating a sun. You've got all these beautiful rays coming off. So you're going to see me, and if you hear me doing this, is I'm creating all these beautiful rays coming off this sun. Now, my daughter is wonderful she is the artist in our family. Me, I'm the one who creates art like this. It's like a stick figure art, or like I'm creating a sun when I'm 6. Had to let go of that. So let go of what you are not and step into who you are. Each one of these is a branch per se, because think of the tree trunk as your niche, but you've got all these branches and all these little leaves. All of those branches are these different per se problems within the niche. The leaves are even more specific conversations. Let me show you in this example, because that is dedicated in one of the many parts to this niche done different. Right here, this ray or the branch is actually where you need to put in mindset. I'm going to give some examples. This may be daily habits. The other part of mindset may be learning to let go. Letting go. Another one may be boundaries. Another might be saying no, even though you always say yes. So it's diving deeper and creating even more branches off this core category. In the hormone, that might be BPA free. That might be foods for, just going to give an example, rip through a few so that we can make this a shorter episode. That might be dim foods. It might be adding dulse and kelp and different sea veggies. It may be talking about the elements of detoxing, your body, detoxing your liver so you have healthy hormones. See how extensive it can be for the gut. Maybe you want to break this down into leaky gut, foods for the gut, supplements for the gut, but then talk about the emotional aspects of the gut, the metaphysical aspects. There are so many different ways to build a signature business. That's not just like your signature offer. It's your signature brand vision. It's what you stand for. It's what you're about. It's all those experiences, as I said, midway through this, all those grand experiences you went through. It's not that talking about these different elements doesn't make you a gut coach. It's that you're helping your ideal client to connect all these dots. These are all topics you can talk about. You can also say, my client has these core problems with their mindset. I'm going to talk about this solution. So in the next different parts, we're going to talk about how powerful content is when you're looking at it and you're doing your business like this. This is what takes you to be an internationally known coach. This is what it takes for you to have people who reach out to you and say, we need you to come and talk at our place. We saw you in a video talk about food and mood. This is how every opportunity came to me. I didn't search them out. I stayed consistent with talking about the problems and what I wish was around for either my mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, the lineage of health issues, mental health issues that have robbed my family blind, plus the things that I thought, I know my ideal client's searching for this because I'm so clear on the behaviors and the problems of my ideal client. I'm clear on what I was intentionally searching for. Your business is not about you. Your business is about your ideal client, but that's why we get clear in a part 1 exercise. So you get clear on your signature method and process. It's not going to happen overnight. You're going to do this and you're going to keep extending those branches. And we're going to get into, of course, in part 2, coming back to this and doing the different leaves. I'll give you an example. One branch is daily habits and mindset. The leaves is the morning ritual. The leaf is, well, not leaves. The leaf is a morning ritual. Another leaf on that branch is your snacks during your day so you don't go into a fight and flight mode, adrenal. I mean, I could list all those things that we have to do in our daily habit of our day. That's every leaf on the branch. Are you guys now with me? You're like, oh, wow. So I've been really not looking at the extensiveness of my business. The answer is yeah. And this is where it gets exciting because you will never be at a lack of content or information. And that's why when I tell people, know what you offer and why, and don't be scared to stand with conviction. You have to have confidence, you have to have conviction, and you have to have content. I know it from my own experience. I know it from watching coaches who are thriving during this like last year where they are crushing it because they're clear. They're clear, they're confident, they have conviction, and they have that content. So they're not rewriting everything and they're out there testing these different elements, getting the attention of people because they're extremely clear on their process. We're going to, of course, then dive into how do you then decide like your freebies? How do you decide your talks? How do you decide what you offer on your work with me page? How do you decide like what is the signature freebie versus the testing freebie? These are all things I see nobody covering. And this is what I needed to do. This wasn't even in this one book. And that's why I thought, you know what? Let's do this different. Let me take you through a process that I do now naturally because I've mastered that part. And so from this one exercise, I want you to get clear on your signature process. What we're going to do, of course, in like part 2 is we're going to really talk about identifying the problem and how your core signature process is the solution, but how you need those freebies and how you need your workshops to be able to explain the problem, the obstacle, the solution. And not only create your signature business, but create that signature story and those signature stories that you need to say, and also help you see how we're going to connect the dots in this next one. So, meaning, actually, I'm going to close this out real quick because I don't want to leave you guys hanging on what you can expect next. We know that we just touched on the signature process. What I want you to marinate with, I want you to really think about it. I always tell my clients or self, right? You need 7 days to really marinate on this before you can take action. That's why I personally don't leave anything to last minute. I'm extremely disciplined in this area of taking baby steps. And that's how I've mastered everything. Because I do have massive anxiety. And if I do everything all at once, I will have a panic attack. And thank God my husband knows this about me, because he helps me, plus all the people I've ever hired, coaches included, acupuncturist, craniosacral, anybody. They knew in order for me to take massive action, I have to go in baby steps. And we also learned that with one of my favorites, which is Tony Robbins and Les Brown and Eric Thomas, who I listen to every day. So here's your ideal client. I want you to think before we go into this next. Of course, you're going to do your homework on part 1. Part 2 is I want you to think and be like, in this middle circle, as you will see, in this middle circle, you're going to list all their core problems. Like, that the core problem of your ideal client, list 10 problems that they have. Like, I would say there's usually about 1 to 2 wake up problems, but they have problems. So I would say, in that gut personality, I'm going to list 1, 3, 4, 5 problems and how it's affecting their life, because knowing the key problems that our ideal client has is really important. So in there, we're going to list the problems. What I want you to then see is, it's cool that you know all those problems. And it's important because in order to close on a discovery session, you need to know the problems, because you need to hear how they're saying their problem in their own words. And you can start to actually think of the funnel, the roadmap, the path for this type of problem. Most of us, I would say, that coached multifaceted issues, we had usually about 5 to 7 different scenarios in our head of paths based on people's problems. So it is really important for you to know that in developing what we call these funnels. It's really a step-by-step process that you believe in your business this person has to take to achieve X result. But in order for you to be found and for people to, to find you in a sea of everyone talking the same game, where algorithms do change, where social media platforms have different, personalities per se of people who come there. If we take all of that away and we think, what is my ideal client searching on Google? It's my favorite place. That's why you guys always hear me talk about videos and doing YouTube videos, because it has a direct connection with Google. I'm going to say, well, on Google, or my ideal client who has these core problems, are they searching for, these symptoms? And so those little bubbles would be like hair loss, stress, bags under the eyes, skin issues. I just have to look down if you're seeing me on video, is that I just have to kind of step into that client's shoes and think of everything that people always come to me with. Skin issues, sleep problems, constipation, loose stools, diarrhea, constant pain under the rib, under the breastbone, a pain in the neck, which feels like they can't crack no matter how many times they go to the chiropractor, and the list goes on. That's just me thinking about it in maybe 1 minute. It's not that I have like a Harvard switch. That would be nice if I went to Harvard, but I don't have this Harvard switch, and nobody needs a Harvard switch per se. It's that we need to be that in touch with our ideal client, and we need to be better listeners. We can't listen if we're overwhelmed. We can't listen if we're caught up in all the noise. And I know this from struggling with anxiety my whole life and being told, well, maybe you're bipolar. I mean, all these different things that I've been told throughout my life, and doctors and specialists, and told, you're not going to do this. You're not going to be able to do this. You have this. It's for me to tell you, like, I understand what that chatter is like, and we have it at all different levels. So that chatter, you've got to disable. and you've got to lessen that noise of, oh my God, no one's going to hire me. And am I doing this wrong? And you have to lessen that and build that confidence with that clarity and conviction, and do these exercises so that you can actually build that business. Because showing up, whether you decide to show up in the digital space or whether you're showing up in networking, in groups or offline brick and mortar, it still takes a lot of grit and a lot of perseverance. It takes a lot of energy. And so if we're consumed with all that mishigas, the negative chatter in our head, we can't hear our ideal client. We can't listen on a discovery call. We can't listen while we're doing market research. We're just so self-consumed. And so this business is about you putting yourself out there, but this business also requires you to drop your shit at the door, do that personal work that we need to, so that we start seeing that everything was meant to happen in our life so that we could be of service. We're going to close out this cool episode with that. And I really hope, if you have any questions, you come into my free group. We're going to be diving into this and doing a little challenge, not a formal challenge where make your exercise, take a picture of it, come in, get support, drop the ego and say, I'm overwhelmed and I'm feeling like broken. It's okay. Guess what? Everyone feels that way, but we don't say it. Say it. Because if you don't, and this is what my first coach said to me, if I don't say it and ask for help, my inability to drop my stuff at the door and to show up will 100% result in somebody feeling, struggling, possibly even wanting to just not be anymore because they feel that alone. So you have to get crystal clear on what will happen if you don't show up. And it's not just about you not making money, you not fulfilling your dream. You have to go that much bigger, and you have to play out every potential person that will sit in the same stuff that you decided that you would do this business for, meaning all the same pains, all the same problems. So get really clear on your purpose. And if you guys have questions, of course, like I said, drop them in a free group, drop them wherever you're seeing this, and I'll do my best to get back to you. Have an amazing one. It's been a pleasure to be with you guys. Mad love, really. Got mad love for what we do. And what we do as heart-based entrepreneurs or creatives is different. How we build a business is different when we operate from this place. So, I'm going to continue to talk about that because I see a lot of heart-based entrepreneurs that get out-marketed by people who are really good at marketing. So, welcome to the new era. We so need heart-based coaches, and I think more than ever. So with that being said, a big kiss. It's been my pleasure to be with you, and I will see you guys later. Bye, guys.